Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Glad to see everybody here today. Welcome to another episode of Rants About Tech Live for Monday, January 20th, 2024. Inauguration day here in the U.S. The U.S. That's all I'll say on that. We got a lot of things happening. Today. TikTok, that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. We're definitely going to talk about the scientific method today. I know you came here thinking, why is he talking about the scientific method? We'll get there. Thank you for joining me. You're going to be glad you came. Thanks for all the crew who's joined in the chat already. You guys got it popping early. I appreciate that. You guys got it popping with the intro. Listen, nothing better than chat in the intro. You gotta love that. So thank you. A couple of new people here today that I haven't seen before. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Do you know what you've gotten yourself into? Probably not. You'll be informed shortly. What else we got here? Let's go ahead and do the air horns for the members today. We got Jay here as well as Lau. How's it going, Lau? Lau's honorary. That's how that goes. We do honoraries here. My scrolling is not working for some reason, but you know, we don't need the scrolling to work. Matter of fact, let's bring this down a bit. I got my chat so far up, I can't really see it. Oh, there we go. Oh, now the scrolling's actually working. Good to go. All right, what else we got here? We got Mr. Media, aka Aaron, in the building today. So let's get the air horns going for Aaron. We got the Rock here. How's it going, Rock? Good to see you. We got eInk. She in the building. How's it going? Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Greg, aka Gregory's in the building. You gotta get the air horns from Greg, aka Gregory. And who else do we have here? I think that's all I see in the chat right now. Oh, Joseph, the spaceman. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. And we have Brian. What's going on, Brian? Let's get the air horns going for Brian. Big up, Brian. Jersey. Oh boy. When the roads in Jersey, that's what I think of when I think of Jersey. The roads. It gets tricky. All right, everyone. It is a sunny day here in Philadelphia today, so we got the sun in the background. Feeling good. The vitamin D levels are up. Feelings are up. So we're good to go here today. Hey, we're good to go here in Philadelphia today. We got BM here. Oh snap! What's going on, BM? Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Let's see what we have here. Okay? We're building. We're building right now. We're gonna hit some like we normally do here before we dive into anything seriously eInk related. We're gonna hit up some normal tech stories here. We don't have a lot. But even before we do that, let's give a big up to the national and international holidays we got today. We got obviously Inauguration Day here in the U.S. We got that going on. We got International Acceptance Day. Let's just bring some awareness to people with disabilities today. Your boy here, yours truly is a disabled veteran. I don't know if you guys knew that, but disabled veteran here, technically. So definitely show some love for the disabled people in your lives today. Let them know you care. Reach out. See if they need any help with anything today, right? That's what this is all about. Outdoors Day, international holiday. So, I mean, it's cold as crap outside. Speaking of being cold as crap outside, did you guys see that Bills game? I don't know if no one cares, right? That's here. But the Bills killed yesterday. The Bills did it yesterday. Anyway, we'll move on. Josh Allen for MVP. That's all I'll say about that. We got Heroes Day in Cape Verde. I know a couple people from Cape Verde, so Heroes Day in Cape Verde. That's the small island off the coast of Africa. Yes, it is. Um, Mortars Day in Azerbaijan. Now, I have that because I like saying the name Azerbaijan. I don't know why that rolls off the tongue. I love it. Azerbaijan. It's Mortars Day. And lastly, we have Men's Day in Iceland, which should be Greenland. We won't talk about that though. All right, so let's go to the chat real quick before we get into the stories here. We have Brian says I live in northwest part of New Jersey in the country. Oh, I have a couple friends who live in that part of New Jersey. They love it out there. I forgot where he's actually from though. But he one wheels back out there because I guess you guys got nice trails back there, so it's really woodsy, backcountry kind of stuff. Tommy, morning everyone. I have heard him talk about post on Discord. How do you get invite link? Okay, so Tommy, this is how you do it. You become a member. Once you become a member, it's 99 cents, just to let you know. You know what? We didn't even get to the promos here. I think I just got to the end of the Men's Day in Iceland. We'll get to that. Actually, you know what? We're going to get to that in a second. Winter Sun is just the best in frozen tundra. Yes, it is. Winter Sun is the best. Bills on collision course with KC. Yes, they are. It's going to be a good game. Sheen says, hey, BM Lau, Brian, Tommy, and Aaron. Nice to see you all. Happy Men's Day. Oh, there you go. That's why I bring these things up. We can appreciate people when these days come up. Brian, near Delaware, Water Gap. Okay. Yeah, definitely good. Oh, man. Yeah, definitely good part of the state. Yeah, you're in a good part of the state, my man. You don't have the road issues that I'm talking about coming from Philly over the what bridge is that? I can't believe it. I drive over that bridge like twice a week. Oh my goodness. It'll hit me. Also MLK Day. Yes, MLK Day. That's what I was getting to. Thank you, bro. And it's MLK Day, national holiday here in the U.S. So, you guys, we got a few things. We got a few things to talk about here. But the first thing is we're going to talk. Actually, you know what? Let's finish up the promos because we have a question. We had a question about how to get into the Discord. So we'll do the promos, and that'll explain exactly how you get into the Discord. So the first thing is this. Members, thank you. I thank you all to the members. We got a couple people who have rejoined us, so thank you to the people who've rejoined the membership. We have a new member as well. Who do we have here? We got who do we have here? Oh no. Rejoined. My bad. But for the people who just joined, who I didn't call out and I haven't had a chance to call out, we have Kingsley, appreciate you. Yas, thank you as well. We have Clarence Martin, I appreciate you. Torleaf. I think Torleaf is BM. Thank you. And I thank you for the people who are rejoining. Kurt, appreciate you. Danielle, appreciate you. So thank you guys for the support for the channel. So thank all the members and all the guys who sub to the channel. Just want to put that out there. Ways to support the channel. Subscribing. That's one way. That's an easy way. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost a thing. Show your support for the channel. Engaging. People who come and engage like what we have here. We got good engagement in the chat. I got to say. You guys are the best. You guys are the best. So engagement. Memberships. We have memberships. So that is the way to get into the Discord. And a way to support the channel. Memberships, 99 cents. When you do become a member, there is a link in the... There is a link in the membership posts once you become a member, and you'll have access to those posts once you become a member, and then you'll see the Discord announcement, and then the link will be there. It's a new and improved link. The link was shady before. It was shoddy. It was won't say shady. It was a shoddy link. The link did crazy stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. Admittedly, it was user error, but we've got that fixed since then. It should be good to go. It should be good to go. Oh, snap, Tommy. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. We got another member, you guys. Everybody welcome Tommy. Everybody welcome Tommy to the crew. Yeah. So, and we also have a subreddit coming soon that I'm going to talk about here in a second. So, um, I just mentioned the Discord. I just mentioned the subreddit. So, I'm working on the subreddit. It's a work in progress. I'm trying to speed roll that. Like it's not working for me though. But the subreddit is coming, so that's going to be another perk of being a member. I'm not sure how I'm going to implement that into the subreddit, but we're going to do a subreddit to kind of upvote and downvote stories that we're going to talk about on the live show. So that's going to be the use for the subreddit there, and a way for us to hide from the attacks on subreddit. We'll attack, then be attacked, and then run to the Rants About Tech subreddit to hide, and then we'll be amongst friends. It'll be a place for us to hang out and gang up on everyone else. It'll be fun. What else do we have here? The website, ways to support: t-shirts, nibs, pins. Go to the website, show your support. Let's see what we have here. This is a black t-shirt. We also have white t-shirts, as you can see here. Yeah, so that's another way to show your support. Go to the site, grab a t-shirt, take a look at the pins, take a look at the nib, see what you think. It might interest you. We don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, so that's going to be it for the intro stuff. Let's go right ahead into the topics here. So the first thing is TikTok. Is TikTok working for anybody right now? Is TikTok banned? I know yesterday they had a problem. It went down for a short period of time. Where are we all on that right now? Do we have any TikTok users in the chat right now? If we do, you know what? What time am I at? I gotta start trying to keep this time. 15. Good to go. Do we have any TikTok users though? If we do have any TikTok users in the audience right now, in the live, is TikTok working for you? I don't use TikTok. I gotta admit, I do have the app though. So I'm gonna see if it's working for me right now. Let's get a consensus, you guys. Throw it in the chat. If you're watching this live right now, there's 10 of us in here. Throw it in the chat though. If you get the opportunity to do that, if you can check TikTok to see if it's working for you. I want to get a consensus as to what's going on with it. Yesterday it went down for a short time. Okay. Wow. Okay. So clearly, it's working. It's working. Oh, did that play through the metas? Did you guys hear that? I hope not. That might be a copyright strike. I may have to take this video down. So clearly TikTok is working for me right now. What's going on, eInk Unplugged? Thanks for joining. Yeah, TikTok did come back. It went down and it came back. So it went down. I think they did that just to scare people. Let's take a look and see what the consensus is. I think they did that to scare people. Because they brought it right back up. Right? I mean, they took it down for a little while, then they brought it back up. For some people, it wasn't working, and then all of a sudden it was. So that tells me they didn't, and we already know they didn't have to take it down, right? Like this wasn't them saying TikTok shut the servers off. This was them saying Apple, Google, you can't distribute the app anymore. If you do, and I figured out that number too, it's $5,000 per user per day. So if they were to keep the app on the store, that's what the fine would have been. No one could absorb that. So that's the thing, right? They didn't have to shut the service off. They did. They did that, I think, to scare people. Clearly, it was a scare tactic. Because they didn't have to do that. They totally didn't have to do it. And that was my thing. I thought, what a shady thing to do. Turn it off to scare people. And for what? What was the point? There would have been nothing users could have done. User outrage to me couldn't have done anything to help them in that situation. If it was something they were going to have to do. If shutting down is something that they were going to have to do, I don't think user outrage would have done anything. So that's what was weird about it to me. They did something they didn't have to do, and evidence of that is the fact that they switched it back on. Right? There was no need for that. Going to the chat, buy one of these eInk clocks to keep track of your timestamps. Ah, yes, definitely. CJ had one in his picture. He threw it in the Discord. That's a cool looking clock. I don't know if it's eInk though. CJ, if you're seeing this, throw it in the comments. Let me know. She welcome, Tommy. Yes, I need an eInk clock. Anyone know any good ones? Right. I would definitely use an eInk clock. I would. You know what I would do? I may buy an eInk sign and throw it right back there. I've been looking for something to dress my background up a little bit more, and I think an eInk sign would be really nice. Maybe the Spectre 6 sign they showed at CES. I don't know. I do want a sign for back there, though. I thought neon, but eInk would be way better. You know what I mean? I could change it. It could sit there. I don't know what it would say. Maybe something random every day. A quote every day. A rant every day. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't think that this TikTok thing is, and they're up right now, so it's past the 19th. We're at the 20th, and I think I talked about this last week, and I said that TikTok will be going for a while. You won't be able to update that app, so it's probably still working for most people. You won't be able to update the app. They won't be able to push any security updates, but you'll be able to still use it for a while. And for a while, you probably won't notice any differences on the app. But over time, without updates, but they'll certainly be adding new features, and that will affect your functionality of the app, and bam. I posed this question in another live too, and since we're on the subject of TikTok again, I'll pose it again to a different audience here, because I think we have a few people that weren't here then. What do we think about TikTok as a web app? What do we know about that? Would it work? Why wouldn't it work? Does anyone have any insight on that? Because that's what I immediately think. Why wouldn't this work as a web app? That way you wouldn't need hosting in that way, right? I could be wrong, which is why I'm asking. eInk Plug said that would be a good idea. I think it could be a clock. It could be whatever I wanted it to be, right? It'd be an eInk screen that I could just change to whatever. If it would be color, that would be kind of cool. Like I said, that Spectre 6 frame that they had at CES would be very nice. That Vlad did, he did some pretty good, or has some pretty good coverage of that device there. It's an eInk dashboard that I got from Kickstarter. Oh, so I gotta check that out. So TikTok is clearly up, and like I said, it's gonna work for a while. I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that. I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that at all. All right, where are we at here? All right, so the next thing we got, the next thing we got on the list is going to be Google Messaging. Let's check this out real quick, you guys. So Google Messaging gets is seemingly going to get a new feature, which is threads inside of their messaging app, which I think could be huge to catch it up with all its competitors, right? This also, to me, signals the fact that they're trying to add even more features, because you don't add threads without thinking about other features, right? It's going to be bundled with some other features that they're thinking about. And I don't know this. This is all speculation on my part. What I do know is it's in the beta, which is what we have here from Android Police. So this is coming off the heels of Android Authority going into the code for the new messaging app and seeing that there are other features that aren't in the live app as it is today. I think they recognized that there was code there, and then they started working with the app itself, and they kind of dug into those features in the new UI that they're using. So let's take a look at that real quick. What do we have here first? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this little passage here. It says, looking through the most recent Google Messages beta, the folks at Android Authority have stumbled upon an update interface for the media viewer. In its current form, tapping a video or photo in the conversation doesn't offer any options bearing the save, download, and share icons. However, in the new beta version of Google Messages, the media viewer gets some new options at the bottom left of the screen. There's a circular chat bubble icon followed by a row of the six standard emoji and a button to pick from a larger selection. Tapping the chat buttons opens a thread-style view detailing all the replies and the image. Each reply to the image appears individually in the standard view, thus providing enough context about the discussion, which can be crucial to a group chat. Agreed. Let's take a look at the video of that in action, actually. This dude is like literally okay. There we go. Like, dude, do you know how to use the app? Can you type? All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. All right, dude, show the option. So maybe he doesn't show the option. Wait, chat, did I miss something? Oh, you know what though? This was a test. This was a test video of them just getting into the new UI. My bad. That was just a test video. I thought they were going to show the actual use of the UI. I'm like, okay, cool. They got a video. Let's take a look at it. My bad, chat. They clearly don't. They clearly didn't have that up there, or maybe I was looking at the wrong one here. No, that's not. Oh, maybe this was it, and it's gone now. Maybe they had to take it down. Okay, it looks like they may have had to take that down. That's what it's looking like. Because this video, the one that I had viewed earlier, is not viewable now. Live shows. Am I right? Am I right? All right, let's move on. All right, so the next story we got here is Doom. I think we took a peek at that a second ago. So I think this is super interesting here. Doom reported to ported to a standalone Microsoft Word document. So I like this story because now we've gotten to the point in technology. We've gotten to the point in technology that it's not even a question whether Doom will run on something. Like that's where we are in our technology journey. It's not a question of will Doom run. It's a question of how well does it run. We know where it will run on anything. You put this thing on a Raspberry Pi, the first one, it's running. I don't care what you try to run this thing on, it'll run. It's just how well will it run, and that's how far we come in technology. That's why this is an important story to me. You can now run, and I looked at this is not controversial, so they would not have gotten rid of this video. So this live demonstration should go well. It should. It probably won't. Let's try it. Let's take a look at Doom running inside of a work. Actually, you know what? Let's take a look at the guy who went and created this thing here. So we got Netherlands-based Wojciech Graj is the brains behind this project. On social media, Graj explains that he was inspired to port Doom to a Word document after seeing Doom PDF, which is the last Doom port that impressed me. Doom running inside a PDF. It's impressive. Oh yeah, Jay just said. Let's go to the chat real quick before we continue with this. Jay says that I was just going to say that Rod, it would work fine from an user end perspective, but it would defeat a lot of the purpose from ByteDance's perspective, much less data collection. Yes, that's one reason the web and what Jay's talking about is the TikTok as a web page. I know there would be hurdles, right? I'm just thinking, would the algorithm work the same? That's you know what I mean, because that's the big thing for TikTok, the algorithm. See, I just convert everyone to Signal app or use Blue Bubble to use iMessage on Android. LOL. Yeah, I haven't used the Blue Bubble, but Signal's a great app. So yeah, the PDF one is the last one that impressed me. But let's take a look at it. So I think that we do have the video of this. Let's take a look at this real quick. No sound though. Whoa. Really? Oh boy. Oh, there we go. No sound for this though, for this Doom port. So that's one of the drawbacks. I guess it doesn't run that well, and there's no sound. But it's Doom running in a Word document. You gotta love that. You gotta love that. So this is a 6.6 megabyte document that's running Doom. It'll run on anything and in anything. So I thought it was super interesting. Like super interesting. If you're an old school gamer, this is super impressive. It's super impressive. All right, so let's move on here. What do we got next? And where am I at? What do we got next and where am I at? Let's figure that out first. I think I'm at 30. All right, good to go. All right, so the next story we got up here is going to be, I want to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about a video that Voja put out recently. All right, so I just want to make a couple comments on a video he put out, but I want to preface it before we do that. So the first thing I want to say is that I want to, right off the top, I'm going to give Voja a round of applause here for the work that he did. Because anyone who puts themselves out there with something new, you're going to put yourself. You're going to get scrutinized, right? It just comes with the territory, and scrutiny is a part of the scientific method, if not the scientific methodology. It's just peer review. You come out with your own observation, hypothesis, and conclusion, right? You develop a set of rules and laws based off those things. That's the process. Once you do that, you submit that to your peers. You submit it publicly so it can be peer reviewed. All scientists get peer reviewed. Your work should be able to be independently verifiable by anyone who wants to. That information should be there. That's the first thing. So, but it starts here, right? It starts with someone putting themselves out there. Case in point, Copernicus. Let's take a look at Copernicus. I want to set the stage here before I say what I'm going to say here, because I don't want to come off the wrong way here. Oh boy. All right. Here we go. Nicholas Copernicus. This guy was the first guy to say that the Earth is not the center of the universe. It wasn't even the center of our own solar system. So Someone had to be the first to observe something, then say it. Now, was everything this guy said correct? No. Everything he said about his observations were not correct. But someone had to be the first to put himself out there. You know what it meant? You know what it meant for this guy to say the things that he was saying in a time when we're talking in the 1400s here. 1500s. What it meant for this guy to say the things that he said at the time that he said it meant death. He knew it. All his peers knew it. That's what it is. But he knew that, and he still took that leap, knowing that that could be the end result of what he's saying. Because he believed what he was saying. Like I said, not all of what he was saying was true, but he did believe everything he was saying, and a lot of what he was saying was true. He was the first, died for it. So let's just put this in context here, okay? So I just want to throw that there are people who have died for their point of views and their observations and their scientific discoveries. Okay? They've died for them. So if I say something about someone's observations, I'm not coming for their life. I'm just critiquing their observation. So let's put this in context for what follows. Okay? I just want to put that out there. I applaud him, Voja, for stepping out and doing what he did. It's commendable. It deserves recognition, 100%. Doesn't make it right, but it does deserve recognition, and it does deserve some, gratitude for being the first to step out there and put it in those terms. Let's go to the chat real quick before we finish this rant up, before we get into this rant, because this is the warm up. I haven't even gotten started. This is how epic rants start. That's you. You're right. You're right. Rock says in the vid he had some questions on sig figs and data display. I've done lab work and paper writing in the past, so I'm in communication with some pointers. Nothing huge. We're gonna get into that. When you get into significant figures, that matters. There are laws that govern how many significant figures you should have. You need to know those things going in. But we're gonna talk about that. Mr. Mike. Oh snap! Look, let's get. I didn't see Mr. Mike earlier. Let's give Mr. Mike the air horns. Thanks for joining us. He says Voja was the second. Who was the first? I don't know of anybody that's even trying to quantify. Okay, Khaled. Are we talking about Khaled? Because Khaled's going to be a part of this discussion as well. All right, so like I was saying, it's a commendable position to take. I haven't seen anybody else step out like that. So to me, from my knowledge, Voja is the first. I'm relatively new to this though. Copernicus. Oh my, Mike, we're trying to have a serious conversation here, bro. What are you doing? What are we doing, Mr. Mike? All right. So anyway, that's the thing here, right? That's what this conversation is going to be about. Now, let's get into the notes here. Matter of fact, let's pull up the video because I got video and I got notes, but I want to preface this with some things too. Where's it at? Bam. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. All right. Whoa. All right, so the first thing I want to say before we get into the video here, uh, Khaled probably does the most scientific testing on YouTube for these devices, in my opinion. Um, that's in response to Jay saying I think Khaled does some quantitative stuff, but nothing formalized. Yeah, yeah. Nothing formal, like you said, but he does give some quantifiable numbers, and I appreciate that. I really do appreciate what Khaled does. Khaled was the person who got me on this path. Now I'm gonna say this, and I know how it's gonna sound. See, and The Rock says Khaled does quant, but yeah, yeah. He doesn't do it with the intent of peer review or repeatability. Not that he's not doing it for that rigor, just not published. Right. See, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. Okay, so um, in my mind, and we're just gonna go through some notes before we get started here. Let me just go back to the beginning so I can do this in some kind of reasonable order. So I'm going to say some things about the video to start out with. The first thing you have to do is to be able to quantify the terms that you're using. So we're going to hear a lot of terms being used throughout this video here. Now, the terms that are being used throughout the video aren't being quantified. They aren't even being formulated. So, case in point, if I come up with a term that is contrast, I say this is my definition of contrast. I have to define it, right? What do I consider contrast? Or let's take something even more ambiguous. Let's do something like whiteness, distortion, grayscale, degradation. What is that? No one knows. So when I say something like that, I need to then go behind that and tell people what exactly that means. It means that I measured this and got this number. I measured this, got that number. I measured this and got that number. And then I made a formula that takes into account these different variables. I input those numbers into this formula. That gives me this number. Or that gives me this value. That's how you quantify a term. Because now when you say whatever term I just said, you can now go and repeat that for yourself and get a number that tells you what that term means for whatever you're trying to test. Does that make sense? But when I say the background whiteness, distortion, grayness field of something, and then I don't give you what I measured and then the formula that it took to take in those measurements, all I'm doing is taking a term and correlating it to another term, which in turn needs to be defined. So if I keep defining a term with another term, this is just a revolving door. I'm just going to keep having to create new terms to describe this thing until I decide to say, okay, now I have to quantify this term and say what exactly it is and how I came to it. You can only do that with numbers. That's the only way to do that. You can't do it with another term. You have to measure, create a formula, and put those numbers and measurements into the formula. I you can't apply astrophysics to I mean, he's doing it's astronomy. He's doing like astrophotography is essentially. I think that's what you're talking about there, BM. So that's my first problem. Like with the video is that you hear terms that are being defined by other terms, not by numbers and formulas, which is what you need in this case. And we'll talk about why that is in a second. But that's the first thing I want to say. So let's go through this, and I'm going to hit certain points. So we're going to start at 250 or around there.
And through my research,
actually, let's go to the chat before we do this. Tommy says, total fan of Voja. He does step out there with his opinions and insights. I'm a total fan of Voja too, but you have to be critical of things when they happen, regardless of who they are, right? We still have to be critical. There is a right and a wrong way to do things. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I like a lot of people, but that has nothing to do whether they're right or wrong. Jay says, how much of a challenge here do you think is about how widely viable these screens can be between different devices of the same model? None of that matters, Jay, and I'm gonna get to why here in a second. None of that matters. BM, that's astrophysics. Yeah, is Voja going to publish? No. His astrophotography stuff was very cool, by the way. Yes, very cool. And I used to do, well, I never did astrophotography, but as far as taking pictures of what I would see through my telescope, I've done that, but not with like a nice camera. It came with a camera that was slotted into the telescope itself. So I do know a little bit about what he's talking about. And I clearly know cameras. And he does make some good points with camera work. But none of that matters. None of it. And I'm going to explain why. Mr. Mike says, poor Voja. Nah, not poor Voja. Thank you, Voja, because that sparks the conversation, right? And this is I'm gonna tell everyone what we need to do as an industry to fix this. I'm going to fix this for us today. Mr. Mike says, okay, never mind. The Rock says, that's why I reached out to him. He's obviously got a good procedure, but maybe doesn't have a background in experimental design and reporting. I'll get him to a bit more quant. Yes, but there's no need for that either, The Rock. We're going to solve this today. I'm going to tell Voja what he needs to do. Well, not what he needs to do, what he can do, because no one needs to do any of this stuff. But this is how I'm going to explain how scientists handle this thing. What's the goal of this video? This video was Voja saying he has a procedure for measuring certain things with eInk displays and eInk devices, and I applaud him for the attempt. It's just flawed inherently from the beginning. Or what is he teaching us about eInk? He's not teaching us anything about eInk. He's Mr. Media. He's not. Aaron says. Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. He's not teaching us anything about eInk. He's coming up with a formula for how he thinks we should start measuring things and talking about things. He wants to change how the conversation is being had, which I think is important, and we should. I just don't think we get there this way. BM says, cool. Allow says, I hadn't seen this video. I'm so curious now. It's an interesting video. It's very interesting. Mr. Mike says, EJ, I don't think the screen very much. Front lights are a different story. I'm going to even explain why the front light doesn't even matter. Like, okay. All right, let's do it. I'm going to say one more thing before we get into this. This is something I used to tell my kids all the time when they would try to overcomplicate and overthink something. I would say this to them all the time. If you need a wheel, there are wheels out there. You don't have to create the wheel. It's been created. We've been using it for millennia. So if you're saying to yourself, you need something circular that would roll, use the wheel. There's no need to go and recreate the wheel. Someone's already spent the time put in the effort in doing so. What you want to do is take that and then improve. But if you're stuck on trying to create what's already been created, you can't improve. That's where I think that's where we are with this discussion. We're stuck in the let's create a standard. It's already been created. The standard is already there. There's no need to recreate the wheel here. And we're overcomplicating it. And I'm going to explain why here. All right, let's get to the video. Oh boy, I clicked the wrong thing. All right, here we go.
And of course, it has to do with the uniformity, which basically, and through my research, I found that basically.
All right, here we go.
Impressions. So let's start with something that hopefully most of you will agree with, which is that screen performance in e-paper devices is more than just the resolution or PPI. Resolution and PPI is important, but it's much more than that. So I did a lot of research, and through my research I found that basically readability and clarity are the most crucial aspects of a screen performance on an e-paper device. Now, these can be objectively evaluated through 4 key factors. Number 1 would be contrast and uniformity, which basically...
All right, so first off, I'm sorry if it was too loud. I just turned it down. So if you turned it down because I had it super loud, my bad. I just brought it back down to a reasonable level. All right, so the first problem I have is with him saying that the biggest things are readability or clarity.
E-paper device. Now, impressions. So let's start with something that hopefully most of you will agree with.
All right, saying that is just, you can't, hopefully most of you will agree with. We're talking about a standard. We can't hope that people agree. You have to give people irrefutable evidence and facts. This is not a hope session. And I'm saying this with all the best intent. Everything I'm saying here today. Okay, they said the volume was good. I'll turn it back up. Everything I'm saying here today is not in malice. It's in hopes that we get to a point where we can talk about it in a way that Voja is hoping that we can. His whole video is trying to make a way that we can all agree to talk about this. I'm trying to further along that conversation by saying why this is not the right route to go. And the first thing is, we can't say things like, or we can, but it doesn't do any good to say things like, I hope everyone can agree. No, you give irrefutable evidence. These are the facts. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to agree with it. It is what it is. And that's the kind of thing we need. Okay, let's move on.
Which is that screen performance in e-paper devices is more than just the resolution or PPI. Resolution and PPI is important, but it's much more than that. So I did a lot of research, and through my research I found that basically readability and it's on transparency and centralization. They're short. Let's explore the problem and clarity of images and content during the of text and images. Number 3, most crucial aspects of a screen performance on an e-paper device.
So he was saying the most crucial aspects of a e-ink device that he hopes everyone can agree on is clarity and readability. That's my first issue. And let's go back to that real quick. I just want
impressions. So let's start with something that hopefully most of you will agree with, which is that screen performance in e-paper devices is more than just the resolution or PPI.
I agree with that.
Resolution and PPI is important, but it's much more than that. So I did a lot of research. And
what research? What did you find? What did this research tell you?
And through my research, I found that basically readability and clarity are the most crucial aspects of a screen performance.
What research? Did you was it a poll involved that questioned people on what they thought was important? Did you just sit down and think about what was important to you? Like, these are the things you need to put out there for people for it to be irrefutable. This is not an irrefutable statement. The two most important things are readability and clarity. I I disagree with that. And if I disagree with it, I know tons of other people are going to disagree with it. It's not a fact. Because to me, those two things are baselines in e-readers today. Have you bought an e-reader in the last 10 years that was not readable? Have you bought one that didn't have enough clarity that you can discern what was on the screen? Lau says maybe research on iStrain. Right, but tell us that. You know, that's the point I'm trying to make here. Whatever it is, I'm fine with it. What is it though? Independently verifiable. You get where I'm coming from? Independently verifiable. When I put out information, you can go and check it out. That's independently verifiable. That's what I'm talking about.
On an e-paper device. Now,
oh, and just to get to the point, like I said, those are baselines to me. All e-readers that come out now, that's a baseline. What's more important to me than those things? Ghosting, speed, just to name two. Right? Because they're all at a pretty good baseline right now. Lau says, at least that's what I would look into. Yeah, that would be cool. You found an article that shows a company did research that showed you this data. Tell us. But you see what I'm saying? It's just ambiguous without that key bit of information. Jay says, oh yeah, like what units are we using to measure readability? That's what I'm saying. You see, you can't just say readability. You got to say, okay, I took this measurement from this measurement from that, made me an algorithm or a formula, put those numbers into the formula, got this number, and I assigned that number to readability. Now anybody can go and take those numbers from their device, put it into that formula, and get a readability number. You see what I'm saying? Duroc says, so you have to think of the format, a YouTube video. At even an hour plus, expecting citation is a bit much. No, not citation. Actually, you know what? F that. Yes, citation. Also, this is presented in the intro as a procedure. It gets published as a paper. Yes, cite. Right. Okay. I don't put anything out as a standard. My information comes from readily available sources and information that's out there. Whatever I say can be verified because I'm not creating it myself. You see what I'm saying? My Note Air 4C video where I talked about the problem with the Notes app, or the video that I did where I talked about the backplane. All of that information, I didn't create any of it. I did research and it was out there. Now, if you were to go and research any phrase that I said, because I didn't make any of those phrases up myself, that information would be out there for you to research and verify. The phrases he's using, you can't go and verify because that information doesn't exist. So in that situation, you have to put information that verifies what you are saying, else you're just talking. That's the difference between what I'm saying for any video that I make. I'm talking about previously published information that you can go and verify yourself. None of it's I'm making up on my own. He's making these things up on his own, whether he's got a formula that he's using, how he's calculating. All these things of being, even the terms he's using are being created by him. You can't go verify any of this anywhere. And then not only that, he's not giving you the information that you need to verify it yourself. That's what I'm talking about. You can't do that and call it science or a standard in any way. We're going to get to simplifying this. We're going to simplify this whole thing today. We're going to take this complexity and simplify it today. I'm going to simplify it. Nazoni, I think we got to Nazoni's thing. Nazoni says, oh, and with the Biblio, please include a terminology page. I will. If I ever create. All right, so I'm doing my inverse ghosting video. And because I've created a new term, I'm going to quantify it. That's why I haven't made it a video yet, because I haven't been able to quantify it. But when I do, that video will be made. I just did it on live as a thing to do, but that's my burden for me. I wouldn't be able to go and create that video because I wouldn't be able to tell you yourself how to measure that, because I don't know how to measure it. And if I never figure out a way to measure it, I'm never putting that video out, because that stands against the scientific method. Thomas says, oh, okay, I hear what you are saying. I am not a scientific researcher. I am just a consumer who loves eInk devices and learning, understanding about this tech. Yeah, we all are. But the thing is, I am a researcher. I've worked in like scientific labs. I've spent a lot of my time like doing this kind of work. And that's why I feel confident saying the things that I'm saying. So, all right. Anyway, moving on. Let's finish this up. Like I said, you have to be able to quantify terms that you're making, and then give people the information they need to peer review it. Else you're just talking, and that's fine. That's fine, but that's not a standard. All right.
These can be objectively evaluated through 4 key factors. Number 1 would be contrast and uniformity, which basically influences how easily content can be distinguished on the screen.
Okay, did you hear that? He described contrast and uniformity as some other terms. There were no numbers involved, units involved. It was just another term that we now have to apply some kind of definition to. You need what should happen here when you say this?
The readability and key factors. Number 1 would be contrast and uniformity, which basically influences how easy.
When you say which basically, you don't have a quantifiable term, because basically is not de facto. And I'm saying this because we're going to hear this throughout the video, where instead of saying contrast and uniformity is the multiplication of this times this, or the ratio of this to this, right? That's what should come next. Contrast and uniformity I have defined as this. Right? Like when we define radioactivity or half-life of an isotope, we can't say, well, the half-life of an isotope is whatever. It's the way it degrades. We can't, it has to be a quantifiable definition. the time it takes for an isotope to reach such and such density by such and such time. Those are quantifiable quantities that you can talk about. Contrast is defined. Right. I'm not all right. So when I say it's not defined here, he's not defining his terms and what he means by contrast and uniformity. That's what I mean. These uniformity is a word that's defined in the dictionary. Contrast is a word that's defined in the dictionary, but they are not defined in the context of eInk displays. And that's what he's trying to do here. He's trying to define those things in the terms of eInk displays. But when you do that, you have to quantify them. The Rock said it is. It's the ratio of blackness level to whiteness level. I'm also unsure of units, but honestly, non-science folk often forget units. Right, but when you're this would happen with anybody who's presenting something. So when you do that, you have to expect scrutiny. And when this happens, it gets better. Now, maybe Voja will think about, oh, I might need to add units to the things that I'm saying. I might need to add quantifiable numbers to the things that I'm talking about. And it's not even a might. You have to. When you talk about, let's change the way we talk about this, we can't until these things have been quantified. The Sakonic was so helpful. The Sakonic did not. All right, so we're going to get to the Sakonic. The Sakonic didn't do what everyone who watched that video thinks that it did, and he even says it. But I think people missed that because people in the comments were like, anyway, let's move on.
Easily content can be distinguished on the screen. Number 2 would be sharpness and clarity, which determines the precision of text and images.
The precision of text and images. What's precise to you may not be precise to me. You might be measuring something in millimeters and call it precise. I might measure something in nanometers and call it precise. Ambiguous. He did what later on, Mr. Mike? Ratios. The Rock says ratios will also be dimensionless. So that one was right. Haha. Yeah. There we go. I'm trying to be right. There's luminous contrast, Weber contrast, Michelin contrast, RMS contrast. Tons. Which one are we talking about? And what's the quantifiable measurement? What's the formula? He had to use them, right? And if he didn't, he doesn't have calculations. And this is not him per se, but anyone who does that doesn't have calculations.
Number 3 would be illuminance, which is basically how visibility is affected under different lighting conditions.
How luminance is affected under different lighting conditions. You can describe luminance as that, but that can't be your quantifiable measurement. You can't use a description as a measurement. And just apply an arbitrary number to it.
And of course, it has to do with the character and the quality and everything regarding the front light of a device for front lit devices. And number 4, we have the dynamic performance.
And these things can be quantified. That's the thing. That's what gets me. All of these things that are being mentioned can and should be quantified. They just aren't. You never know what quantity he's using for any of this throughout the video. We never get to that part. All right, let's go on to the next thing I took issue with, which was the light box setup that he used to do the experiment that he did. So let's check that out, which is where we're going to get into the Sakonic at, which I'll explain that.
Box is 70 centimeters. Why a prime lens? TD that is equipped with.
So this is the setup he used to take a picture. There's lots of things wrong with this setup. I watched the whole video. I watched the whole video, and I know he used ratios. What does that mean? That those are not. That's not a. That's not a measure. All right, so if I say the ratio of white to black is 5 to 6, where did I get the 5 and the 6 from? How did I get 5? How did I get 6? These ratios are only as good as the data you're putting in a ratio. By simply putting two numbers together separated by a colon does not, the data on both sides of that colon needs to be valid. That's the issue here. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. And if I'm wrong about something, I'm wrong. I want to be factual in this. Yeah, see, that's where you're wrong, Mr. Mike. That's where you're wrong. He didn't define it based on the blackest picture you could take and the whitest picture he could take. It's not based on that. He even says that himself in the video. So that's not correct. And that's another problem. To have an experiment, you must have a control. There's no control here. There's no black control. There's no white control. A control is something that no one can refute. A placebo is a control for an experiment. Everyone says that a placebo is just sugar. Does anyone refute that? No one refutes that. So when a placebo is used in a pill experiment, the assumption is that placebo is sugar. It's a known. You don't have to test the sugar. We know what the value of sugar is. You can go buy sugar off the shelf right now, and it's going to be the same as the sugar that anyone is buying it off the shelf in Wyoming, the same as anyone buying it off the shelf in New York City, the same as anyone buying it off the shelf in Canada, the same as anyone buying it off the shelf in Japan, Norway. Sugar's the same. It's a very good control. The other thing you're testing, though, that's the variable. That should be the unknown. But when your control is also an unknown, the experiment is done from the beginning. Yeah. You can't do what he's doing and call it science. You just can't. And we'll get to this blackest picture and whitest picture thing. Like I said, if that were true, if he was using a standardized control, and there are ways to do that. Do you guys know that there are color charts with standardized blacks and standardized whites? He could have just gone and gotten a color chart. Why do you got to go get your own custom paper to do it with? That's not very scientific. If he had done this with a color chart, it still would be flawed, but it wouldn't be as flawed. He had a white control. He didn't have a white control because it wasn't a standardized white. A white sheet of paper isn't standardized, you guys. Let me just explain that. There are charts. People use actual color. Let's look at this. People use actual color charts to standardize colors. I'm sure you guys have seen these charts. These are standardized charts. And they exist for a purpose, so everyone could use them as their control to judge against all other colors. This red right here in this chart is what red should be. So when you go and judge it up against the red that you have, you will know that's not the red that I need because that's the real red. You get what I'm saying? That's a control. That's a control. What he had is not a control. It was just a white sheet of paper that could be and white sheets of paper come in various forms of whiteness. As you guys know, you gotta know that. that every white sheet of paper is not the same brightness. There are certain bleaching techniques that make certain sheets of paper whiter than others. You do have to use equipment in creating the control values. What equipment? We're getting to that. We're getting to that, Mr. Mike. What equipment are you talking about, though? It definitely ain't the equipment that he had. You're not going to do that with a camera and a light box. You're not even going to do that with the spectrometer he had. He and also it's a relative comparison, which makes it non-scientific from the get-go because you won't be able to get the same exact results, even if you use the same thing like he has there. Speaking of which, there's lots of variables that he did not think about and didn't mention in the video. Controls are absolutely necessary in every scientific experiment, Rock. If you're doing a scientific experiment, there you have to have a control. If you're going to say it's standardized, if you want to standardize it. All right, so let's move on. So what I have here in this part right here, the light box setup means nothing when you are measuring secondary brightness. And I'm going to tell you why none of this, the light box doesn't really matter. There's a couple reasons. And the first reason being the picture. No, he didn't look up the color charts, which I thought was odd that he wouldn't just use a regular standardized color chart to measure these things with or against. You know what I mean? That doesn't even make sense. He's measuring it against the whitest paper he had in his house, against the blackest piece of paper he had in his house, which is not scientific at all. I mean, like I said, I'm saying this with hoping to further this conversation and letting you guys know where the mistakes are. So, and not just you, him, in case he wants to redo this, or rethink it, because he should. All right, so moving on. When you take a picture of something and then you crop it, zoom in on it, the nature of the picture is now changed. Because the light you're measuring now is a combination of all of those pixels that have been enlarged and are now not as uniform as they were because you've zoomed into it. And this is a phenomenon I'm pretty sure all you guys have seen. You ever took a picture, tried to crop in on it, and then it just falls apart on you, starts to look grainy and degrading the image? That's I don't care how minimal the crop is, how minimal the zoom is, you're going to suffer degradation in the image. It is not a pristine image anymore. Whatever readings you're getting are not going to be exact. All right, I just read a comment here from Mr. Mike. I think that people think I'm trying to attack Voja here. I am not trying to attack Voja. I'm attacking the methodology that's being used here. Either it's right or it's wrong, and you can't defend wrong when you're talking about science. You just can't. For the very reason I talked about earlier. People have died for what's right and the right way to do things, not just to be saying stuff. I refuse to let someone say something that's not correct. I don't care how much I like them. So that's not going to happen here. If I see something that's not right, I'm going to say it's not right because it's not right. I don't care who they are and how much people like them. This is the truth. Not true with optical zoom. What? That is true with optical zoom. When you get optical zoom, the image is distorted by nature of it being a zoom. You're going to distort the image. That's what zoom lenses do. The 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 mirrors move and expand. But the point here is that even if that were the case, and I assure you that an optical zoom still degrades the image. I assure you that it does. Even if that weren't the case, though, he wasn't doing an optical zoom. He was doing a digital zoom in software, so that doesn't even compute here. If you think you're hiding him to holding to the standard that doesn't exist on YouTube, I think you're holding him to. I'm not holding him to a standard that doesn't exist on YouTube. I'm not holding him to anything other than saying, if you're wrong, you're wrong. I mean, if I were to say something wrong on stream, my chat corrects me. I admit to being wrong and I move on. I don't take it personally. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I'm pretty sure everyone in this chat right now that has been here can attest to that. If I'm wrong about something and someone corrects me, what do? My bad. I was wrong, and I come back on stream and I say, hey, I was wrong about this, and now I'm correcting it. I don't take it personally and get upset. No one needs to defend me being wrong. I will admit it myself. He explained this with the selection of his prime lens and the aperture. Yeah, but the nature of a prime lens means that you can't do optical zoom, Mr. Mike. Prime lenses don't zoom. So there is no zoom to be had with a prime lens. So my point is that even if you tried to zoom optically with a zoom lens, the image is still degraded by sheer nature of what you're doing, which is why he chose a prime lens to take this picture with, because a zoom lens would have degraded the image. Even optically zooming would degrade the image, which is why he chose a prime lens. Dr. Ling says, I just joined. I think there's something off about his contrast calculation. Yeah, there was no calculation. That's the problem with it. And he chose the aperture he chose because with a prime lens, the only way to get the sharpest image is to try different focal lengths. That's the only way to get the sharpest image, or to find out what the sweet spot is on your particular lens. And it's not going to be all the same for each lens, so you have to test it to find out what it is for your particular lens. I know this because I'm a photographer. I know this because I've done videography. I know this because I am a camera person. Nothing he said about cameras was new to me. Matter of fact, I know things that he don't know about the cameras that we're gonna talk about here in a second. Because he didn't mention the picture profile. That matters. That affects how much light the sensor is getting. When the color profile you're choosing wasn't talked about. All that needs to be discussed. But like I said, using a camera is flawed to begin with. So I don't care what camera you use, what color profile. I don't care what lens you use. I don't care if it's zoom or prime. It's flawed from the get-go. Well, this is what I'm going to say here. All right, so the light box setup we got to. Mr. Mike. Oh, oh, okay. So Mr. Mike talking about him using white and black. So let's get to that section real quick. Okay. We're gonna look at numbers too, which seem. Uh, okay. This is not an attack. Just this is not an attack. This is not an attack. I don't want anyone to think I'm attacking Voja here. This is not an attack. I would want someone to tell me if I was wrong and point out where I went wrong. Like I said, I'm not above this. If I say something wrong, I expect people to say something. I just happen to have a live show and I can do it live with an audience. That's all. That's the only difference here. That's the only difference.
Us. All right, so I'm not going to bother you with the data here, but I'm just going to jump in right ahead into the first findings and just discuss a little bit more about what it is that you are seeing here. And this is simply a proposed type of representation of these values. So as you can see, the first representation here is the measurement of whiteness and blackness. And remember, both whiteness and blackness, higher is better is the scoring system, right? And as a reference point, I measured out the paper device here. Now, the paper device is measuring the whiteness is just a white sheet of printing paper, same conditions, everything as normal. And the black, I've really tried to find like many different things. Just printing out the black paper is terrible, and it doesn't.
I tried to find why. That's all. Why would you try to find the black and printing out a black? You don't print out a black paper comparing it to anything. That's what these color charts are for. This is not hate. This is just how science is done. Like, that's it. Like, all right, let's move on.
Doesn't really offer any kind of meaningful thing. So I found the blackest possible commercially printed box that I found, and then I measured it out and used it as a
that he could find. How about get a color chart to where everybody has this, where everybody's on the same starting page? We don't know what the blackness of that paper is. We don't know what the whiteness of that paper is that he chose. But if he had used a color chart, we would know exactly what the whiteness is. We would know exactly what the blackness is. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. This is not an attack. This is just saying how it should be done. That's all.
kind of a reference.
So the notes I have here, white paper comes in many shades, and I think we can all agree with that. He doesn't admit that blacks come in different darknesses, but he did say that he found the darkest black that he could find, which doesn't mean much, because even though it's the darkest black he could find, is it quantified? No. But those are the controls. So when you start with flawed controls, the experiment is flawed. That's not me saying this. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. That's all. Next thing, you can't replicate a job without the exact controls. Your experiment is flawed when you don't use the exact controls, and then that also means that someone who wants to replicate this can't replicate it because they don't know, you didn't use standardized controls. They can't get their hands on that paper that he used. He don't know what that is. How would we know what that is? Which makes this information all relative. This information is all relative, and to me, no different than the terms that we speak in today, which are all relative terms. We're still speaking in relative terms, even though he's done some kind of calculation and measurement that we don't know about. We're still speaking in relative terms here, and that's my problem with all of this. Nothing's been improved. He talks about white noise and black noise as well. but he never describes what this white noise and black noise is. He never puts a number to it. He never quantifies it. He has numbers there, right? What's the formula used to get these numbers? Like we've got numbers here. What formula? Like, let's look at the Supernote. The Supernote A6X2 here. Supernote A6X2 has a number of 0.64 and 0.53. What calculation went into getting those numbers? What units did he grab to put into the calculation to get those numbers? We never get told that. Right. It's the comparative difference. This is all relative. The Rock. That's my point in all of this. These number values that he's giving here are just relative to one another. They're not standardized values. So I would have appreciated if he had done this video and said, and what could have been done to alleviate any confusion is to say, hey, I'm not trying to come up with a standard way of talking about this and whatever. I want to clarify the relative way we're talking about it. But he didn't say that. He wants to create a standard based off this, based off numbers that no one can verify, that aren't based on proper controls. Duroc says, and I'd agree, more explicit formulas would be ideal, but they exist. Not just enough time for YouTube. Au contraire, mon frère. Au contraire. There is enough time to talk about it in a YouTube video, and I'm going to do it here in less than 5 minutes. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to save us. I'm going to save us today. I'm going to put this to rest. Voja, you don't have to do all of this work. You're recreating the wheel. I'm going to show you the wheel we need. So let's go to the next portion of this video here. Let's go to this next portion here.
Kindle Scribe.
Now, look at this. To anyone who says the image isn't degraded when you zoom in, look at this. Even on your screens over the stream, I'm sure you can see this. Mr. Mike says that's exactly what he's trying to express, the relative values. That's not what he said, though, Mr. Mike. That's not what he said. He said he's trying to come up with a standardized way for us to talk about this stuff. He didn't say this. I'm coming up with yet another relative way for us to look at it, because we're already looking at it in a relative way. And what I mean by that is we're already taking one screen, comparing it side by side to another screen and saying which one is brighter. That's relative. It's not quantitative. He's taking us from one relative solution to a whole more complex relative solution. That's not science. He didn't make that clear. We're going to go to the video where, matter of fact, let's just do that right now before I go to this part. Let's clear this up right now and show that he says it's a standard.
That's it. Well, the manufacturer can't really do much about it. That's what they get from eInk. But it and making it perfect for e-paper displays are one of those rare technologies that just feel right for certain types of things. They're easy on the eyes, favor good lighting conditions, incredibly power efficient, and offer a reading experience that's as close to a paper as you can get currently. Unlike the bright and vibrant LCD and OLED screens, e-paper is all about comfort and simplicity and making it perfect for everyone would agree that that's not really a measurable, repeatable, or reliable type of characterization.
He just said measurable, repeatable, reliable. Measurable, repeatable, reliable, not relative, measurable. And I don't know what he measured.
Or finding, or as objective as I try to make it, it's not really it. And to me, that's always been some form of unacceptable. For the past several months, I've worked hard to develop something that I believe is critical for the world of e-paper devices, a framework to move beyond subjective impressions. So let's start with something that hopefully most of you will agree with, which is
See, something beyond subjective impressions. We move from one subjective relative system to another subjective relative system that's way more complex. I'm going to save us today. I hope you stay around, Mr. Mike. I hope you stay around. I'm going to save us today. Okay, so let's go back to that picture. Oh, a standard. Matter of fact,
paper is all about
standard.
Comfort and simplicity. What's the reference point? The new display offers increased clarity and contrast. By how much compared to what? The front light without any harmful blue spectrum. Really? As a reviewer of e-paper devices, I often struggle to describe a screen performance. That is my goal. I try to do that.
Okay, all right. We're going to go down here just to get through this so I can get to the saving. I'm really anxious to get to the saving.
And also thought that
Okay, now anybody looking at this can see that there is artifacting going on. Is it just me? Does this look like a uniform black image? Either of these? Neither of these are uniform black images. Let's get rid of myself. When you start with that, so he took a picture and then he zoomed in on that picture. That's not the way you do light measuring or brightness measuring. You don't measure the zoomed in picture of something. That's not a way to measure. But that's what we have here. We're comparing a black that's unknown to a zoomed in image. He used raw images, which helps, right? But it ain't perfect, especially after you zoom. So we got an unknown control compared to a zoomed in image that we don't know what color profile was used for, which does affect the brightness. Yeah, a lot of noise. But you see what I'm saying? You would have to take. He took a picture and then digitally zoomed in on those pictures with software. That's not scientific. Cropping is zooming in, Mr. Mike. Cropping is just a digital zoom, bro. When you crop on an image, you're digitally zooming. Okay, that's just to put that out there. So he digitally zoomed in on these images when he cropped them. And that's terrible when you're trying to get anything out of an image when you do a digital zoom. You'd be better doing an optical zoom like Mr. Mike said before, but that's not what happened. He did the right thing by taking a pristine picture, but then it falls apart when you go and you zoom in on it, because then you get the artifacting like this, which now you got to take an overall average of the image. That's the thing here. This is flawed from every angle. There's nothing about this that's like standardized or scientific. Right. We're talking about color profile in the camera, though, Mr. Mike. The camera that he uses a color profile. But which one? He never states that. It's just, we never know that. Now he used software that allowed him to not have the image processing applied to the image that he's processing, right? But that's altogether different than the color profile that's going to be already baked into this shot when he takes it. We never know what that color profile is. He never says it. He tells us the camera, smart. The lens, smart. Doesn't tell us the color profile. That doesn't help us. That's going to affect the brightness. But again, it doesn't matter, because if you're judging from these images, it's going to be a flawed, result. Yep, the crop was the same for all images. So you're going to get a relative value, right? But we're not looking for relative, and that's not what he said at the beginning. He said standard way of talking about this. So it doesn't matter that these are all cropped to the same degree. And I agree that he did crop them all to the same degree. That was smart on his part. Doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter that it's cropped. They're all still relative. Don't matter that they're cropped the same. It's all still a relative comparison, not a definitive one. So I have a note here. So different cameras process light differently. It's impossible to get a consistent reading without using the exact same equipment, which I just talked about. And I also just talked about the fact that even if you use the exact same equipment, not knowing the color profile is not going to help. Objective relative versus subjective relative. But we don't want relative when we're talking about a standard. And all this will make sense when I get to the end here. All right. How do we do this? Yep, that's correct, Duroc. When you talk about the color variance, but again, you guys are all thinking relative. The relative system is what we have now. This isn't any better than the eyeballing system we have now, where we can look at an eyeball and say, yeah, that's certainly brighter than that one. Or, yeah, that's certainly slower than that one. It's all still relative, and that's not a standard. This is what we should do. Let me save us here. And not just save us, because I don't know if I'm going to be the first to do it or not, but I am well on my way to doing it, because I see that it's something that needs to be done. I've been thinking about doing it for my own research and purposes anyway. I just didn't think about doing it for eInk devices. I was doing it for the things that I'm making for myself. This is what you do. You get the tool for the job. You get the tool for the job. This is the tool for now. Hold on. Before I go on. He uses a tool in this video, and I want to dispel this real quick. He uses a tool in this video. We're going to get to there, and people are like, "Oh, he's using a scientific tool." Not in the way you thought he was using it. So let me just clarify something for people who misunderstood what was going on here. Oh, I got to find that spot in the video. Did I find it? Nope. Okay. I'm trying to find that like box part of the video here. Let me go back to my notes here and look at the timestamps. All right, 9. Good. That was way back. There. Okay. So we see this image right here. Whoops.
Well, that's it. The second aspect of this is I also employ lens. Effectively, this is 80mm lens due to the cropped sensor on the 70D for anyone who wants to kind of reproduce the same exact results, and the height at which the camera is really consistent type of lighting conditions, and thresholds to be repeatable and controllable. So it starts with
repeatable and controllable.
Consistent, controlled, and measured environment. And in this...
All right, so he said consistent, controlled, and measured environment. Who cares about the environment? Measure the screens. Screw the environment. And this is why I say the Sekonic spectrometer he has doesn't matter in any of the stuff we're talking about right now. Any of it.
In this case, this is an isolated light box.
He's measuring the light in the light box. Let me change my tone because I don't mean to sound attacking. That Sekonic you see there, that's a spectrometer. Spectrometers measure light in a certain area, not the brightness of surfaces, not the brightness of the light itself. It measures the what do they call that? Constituent parts of the light, to make sure that the light measurement you have right here is the same measurement you have over here, which is the same measurement you have here. It just measures basically the warmth of the light. It can measure light brightness as well, but that's doing nothing for surface brightness. So he's not using that Sekonic right there to measure surface brightness.
Really,
he's using that Sekonic just to measure the light in the light box. Just so we are all clear on that. Because people think, oh, they saw an instrument. They're like, oh, he must be using that to measure the screen. No, he's not using that to measure the black. He's not using that to measure the whites. He's not using that to measure the screen brightness. He's literally just using that to measure the brightness inside that light box. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. How do we do this? This is how we do this, everyone. We do this by spectrophotometry. That's how you do this. There is a tool that does all of this already, that measures it with industry standards. We don't have to recreate the wheel here. I'm not holding. All right, let me go. Nazoni says instead of trying to hold him to a standard that doesn't exist on YouTube, invite him to your show to have a scientific discussion about methodologies and how to proceed forward. We're getting there. We're getting there. Like I said, you guys got to give me time. Let me cook. Let me cook. You know what I'm saying? Give me time. You know what I mean? Don't put the egg before the chicken. No, don't put the chicken before the egg. You know what I mean? We all know the egg came first. If anyone out there is concerned about the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg, stop it. Stop it. You already know the answer. The egg came first. Eggs were around way before chickens were here. Things were laying eggs millennia before chickens came to be. So let's calm down. Let's not put the chicken before the egg here. The egg came first. Then the chicken adopted it. Like, oh, that seems like a good way to have a baby. We should do that, Phil. Right? We should totally do that. And then the egg from chickens. But the egg came first. So let me cook a little bit. Let me cook. So spectrophotometry is what we need here. If you don't know what that is, let me explain it. Spectrometry is separating light into its constituent parts, which is what he had there. That's what the machine he had does. Measures all around ambient light, but to the more pointed thing, it measures light's constituent parts. Mashup Mike says the mutation that created the chicken as we know it happened in the egg. That's why the egg came first. I don't know why it came first. I just know eggs were around long before chickens. You know what I'm saying? Animals were enjoying eggs long before chickens was around. You know what I'm saying? I looked up spectro and the first result was the Sekonic C800. I assure you, the C800 is not a spectrophotometer. I assure you. It's a, if you look at the name that's even written on the C800, it says spectrometry, not spectrophotometry. Two different things. A spectrophotometer has a spectrometer in it. It's a part of the spectrophotometry, but it ain't an actual spectrophotometer. Tommy says, so you're telling us to be patient. I'm not very patient. I'm sorry. But let me cook. Let me cook a little bit. You gotta be patient. We getting there. All right. So thanks for that tidbit, though, Mr. Mike. I didn't know it was a mutation that happened that created that. But yeah, the egg definitely came first. So let's put that to rest. We already know the answer to that. All right. So spectrophotometry is what we need, people. This is what we need. The wheel has already been created. This machine does so many things to help this industry out. I'm getting one. I will sell an arm, leg, and a kidney to get this so we can solve this and put this to bed. I'm getting a special kind. I'm getting a special type of one, though. I'm not getting your everyday run-of-the-mill spectrophotometer. 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 Oh, spectrophotometer. There we go. I'm not getting your everyday run-of-the-mill average spectrophotometer. We'll get there. I'm going to be able to say it flawlessly in a minute. So, this thing right here measures surface brightness. Let's look at some examples here. Ooh, that's special. We'll take a look at that in a second. An apparatus for measuring the intensity of light on a part in a part of the spectrum, especially as transmitted or emitted by particular substances and surfaces. So this is what we get. This is what's gonna help us. We can even take this even further. The minimal of what you need to do what Voja's talking about is a photo spectrometer or a spectrophotometer. What I'm going to do for us, I'm going to get one of these bad boys right here. This is a non-contact microscope that measures the surface topography of an object using light. Why do I care about this? Well, I care about it because I'm getting into manufacturing. I need to know the slickness of surfaces, the polish of surfaces, the roughness of surfaces, the hardness of surfaces. I need to know all of that. I've been researching this for a long time. Not for YouTube, but for my own manufacturing purposes. So I'll know I'm getting what I'm paying for, kind of thing. This is my insurance. I don't like not knowing, okay? I got FOMO of not knowing. I don't like it. You know more than me? BS. I'm getting there. This is the thing. This is why it's going to matter. We get images like this. Okay, let's zoom in on this. Let's zoom this first. Go over here. Now we can zoom in on this. We get images like this that we can manipulate and look at. This is what that's going to do for us. What does this do exactly, Roderick? What does this do? What is this image telling me? Well, from right here, you can tell that it knows depth. After it 3D maps a surface, it knows every crevice. It knows all the stepping, all the depths, area. It can measure that. You know what else it can measure? It can measure the distance between two surfaces. Why do I care about that, chat? Why do I care about that? All right, so the difference in what Khaled measures is this. Khaled has an instrument that is a spectrophotometer, like what we just saw. That right there is good for measuring the brightness of reflectivity. Good instrument. That's why I say I like Khaled for his quantitative look on things. At least he's using an instrument that's standardized, that we know the values that it produces. It may not be the best tool for the job, but at least it's quantifiable. I applaud Khaled for that. He's using tools. He's not trying to recreate the wheel. He's like, I know a tool that can do this. Let me get it and do it. Same thing I'm doing. I know a tool that can do this. I wasn't planning on getting this tool for another month or so, but I'll get this as soon as I can get this so we can put this to bed.
Battery 15%. Charge your glasses for full functionality.
My Ray-Bans are dying. Mr. Mike said, this is telling you way too much for what we want to know and measure. What? This is coming from somebody who's researching eInk screens to find out the polarities and the voltages, the pluses and the minuses. You mean you're telling me too much information is too much? You might be a hater, Mr. Mike. We know you're a Penstar hater. We know that already, so never mind. This is on brand. You can never have too much information, people. You can never have too much information. This thing will tell us the difference between two screens, which will tell us the distance between the pen and the surface of the display. That ain't valid information. That ain't valid to what we doing here. You mean to tell me the surface roughness that this thing can measure ain't valid? It puts a quantitative number to surface roughness so we don't have to do things like, oh, is this screen rougher? Is this screen rougher? Oh, I think this. Screw that. Get the tool for the job. Mike says it's different when I do it. Whatever, man. Whatever, Mr. Mike. I know how you get down. I'm with you. I feel you. We listen, I'm with you. We already use scales to weigh the device while at the screen. Right. It's valid. We just don't care about it. Of course you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be sitting here like, oh, his measurements, this and that. We all care. It's valid like Khaled. Bars. Jay coming with the bars at 12:30 in the afternoon. It's too early for that, Jay. It's too early. You got to wait till at least 6 o'clock in the evening. We got to wait for a Saturday stream for that. All these things that he's talking about, this machine gives us, and it gives us in a industry standardized way that no matter who you're talking to, I could go to a plastic manufacturer, a glass manufacturer, a metal manufacturer. I can go to anybody and talk about the readings I get from this machine on any device, and they're going to understand and know what I'm talking about. You know why? Because I'm talking about it in a standardized way already. It's already been standardized. The surface brightness that he's talking about, this thing measures that and gives you a quantifiable number that you can then have anybody with the same technology measure and get the same results. Repeatable results. We don't have to do no math. We don't have to get a light box and a special camera with a lens and know somebody's color profile. You just put the screen under this machine, let it do its thing, and it tells you everything you want to know. I don't need Remarkable to tell me what the screen to pen difference is. I don't need someone to tell me what the surface on that particular display is, whether it's sprayed on or film. I don't need somebody to tell me if the color on the Note Air 3C is better than the color on the Note Air 4C. I can measure it and get quantifiable numbers myself. This thing does everything Voja was talking about and everything Voja is thinking about doing. Duroc, respectfully, of course. This thing tells you screen brightness, which is what Voja's video is all about. Screen brightness. This thing sends it's a microscope. It sends a UV light down and tells you every reading you need back from it. What color it's reflecting, the brightness, the luminance it's reflecting. There are companies who rely on this machine every day to tell them the exact thing we're trying to find out about these devices. The point here is that there's no need to recreate the wheel. I'm getting this device. And we're going to put this to bed. At that point, I'll just publish all the numbers that I get on all these devices, and they will be the gospel because they are repeatable. There ain't no formula needed to be known. These numbers that this machine produces are industry standard and accepted. I would argue that this is the type of machine that eInk uses to do a lot of their measurements. Let me worry about that price, Jay. Let me worry about that price. This is going to happen. Companies are doing this already, eInk. Companies have this to test their products. They have way bigger versions than what I'm going to buy, but they have big versions of this thing. This is an industry standard machine. Most companies have one of these on hand to test the surface clarity, to test the surface smoothness, to test the color. These are used to test color as well. Like what the machine at Khaled does. That just tests color though. I'm making connections all the time, Jay. I'm trying. I'm out here trying. Like I've been talking to manufacturers for the better part of 2 months now, and you learn a few things. Boox and Ratta uses these type of machines. Of course they do. They know the numbers that we're trying to get. They're not going to tell us because they feel like we can't get the machine to get it. But au contraire, mon frère. Au contraire, mon frère. I ain't even French. They're not publishing these numbers because they just don't want you to know. We want to know. They don't want us to know. We're going to get to the bottom of this, though. So I'll be able to measure all of these things. Brightness, pen to display distance, surface roughness, whatever, man. I mean, that above and beyond my manufacturing needs that I'm actually buying it for. Nah, not everybody releases this data. You guys are too consumed with money. Money ain't everything. That's the problem. People look at money as a barrier, like, oh, I can't because this. Nah, this. Where there's a will, there's a way. Y'all talking like y'all don't want to know this. If Voja was saying this, people would be like, oh, Voja, you saved us. Voja made a whole video on nothing, and people were like, oh, this is the best. The work you've done is so good. None of it is good. It's flawed from the beginning. I bring up a tool that gives you all that information and more. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Voja puts out a whole video of no facts whatsoever. These are straight facts you're getting here today. It's falling on deaf ears. No one cares. Okay. Okay. You know what? I try things on the live. I try things on the live and I say, you know, is this going to work? It should work. These are facts. People care about the facts, right? No, they don't. They just want to hear speculation and relative jargon. All right, it's whatever. Okay, what else we got here? Let's move on. We'll move on. We'll move on. Oh, let's just check what else we got on the list here. I'm sure we have something. I'm going to go to the, you know what? Let's go to the chat real quick. Let's go to the chat before we get done with this. Let's. I got a lot of chat to go through. I went on a big rant just now. I'm sorry, you guys. My bad. eInk Unplugged said this is going to keep companies on their toes. Well, when we start taking good measurements, if we keep doing things like talking in relative terms, we're never going to be able to keep them on their toes. But once we get quantifiable measurements, the same measurements that they're getting, yes, we will be able to talk in a way that they don't want us to talk, and it'll get interesting. Duroc says, right, but reading the spec sheet on the Pro Film 3D, it looks set up to measure surface roughness, IG. It might not be set up for, it does everything Voja was talking about and wants to do and everything more. Lau says, indeed, eInk Unplugged. One would hope it would. Why aren't companies doing this already? Conspiracies. Companies are doing this already. They're just not publishing the information. eInk Unplugged, watch out. Make sure you only use scientific standard tools, cite methodology, and include biblio of research in your videos. Listen, if we all did that, what would be wrong with that? Like everything I'm saying here, I'm showing you. I'm not just talking ambiguously, creating my own terms and numbers for this. I'm showing you. This is nothing here is. What's wrong with doing things this way? I think that's what we should all expect. If you're going to say something, you should be able to prove it. That's what makes me think eInk. My guess is that the results may not be uniform across different documents. And the results may not be uniform throughout even the same product. Right? There may be some variance there. Laugh out loud. He's got a profilometer connection. Maybe. Yeah. Why don't they want us to know? Like I think it's variation between products is why I don't think they want us to know. And like Jay said, they don't want accountability for that. And accountability imposes additional costs to them. Bam, Jay hit the nail on the head. So in the spirit of right tool for the right job, all the copy on the Pro Film 3D site using it for surface roughness. You're right that it could probably also do color value, but can a light box and CCD? No. A light box and CCD doesn't give you a reading that's an industry standard. This does. And for people who are saying this is just a surface tester, do your research. Like I said, I've been researching this thing for months. So I know what all it can do. And I'm not even getting this one. I'm showing you guys this because I don't want to leak out the one that I actually am getting. But the one I am getting is similar to this. But they both do the same thing. I just happen to I like the way the other one looks, and I like the people who make it. So I'm going with a different brand. But the fact is that these things do all of that. Do your research before you say it doesn't do what Voja wants it to do, before you say it doesn't do what Voja wants it to do, because you're saying that not knowing. I absolutely know. It does it all. Okay. What's your time frame? When will you be releasing this information? Like I said, time frame, I don't know. I don't know a time frame. But I do want to get into what's next. I do want to get into what's next. Because I think this is a big step here. So let's talk about this. So someone in the chat, So someone in the chat asked, why don't I get with Voja and we make or why don't people get together and do something, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about that. That's what the point is. Oh God, I didn't get to the bottom of the chat. Let's get to the bottom of the chat first. All right. What's your time frame? The time frame for me is going to be probably a month or two. I don't see. The thing is, I was timing this device with the timing of my products that I'm getting, so I can test them, and that's going to be another 2 months. So I wasn't planning on pulling the trigger or trying to even pull the trigger on this thing until I got what I needed to test, just as a time frame kind of thing. So I may still stick with that time frame, but because of what's happening now, I may accelerate that. We'll see. It may not be something I can accelerate, so it may be that time frame. Like I said, I've been researching it for my own uses, not for really YouTube at all. I want to know just in fewer words. You don't get fewer words with me. It's rants about tech. We rant here. He lost me when he talked about astrology pictures. Yeah, I mean, that had no bearing on what we're doing here. It was just a whole bunch of stuff. We'll talk about it. Tommy, when? I don't know, bro. Couple months, maybe. Jay says, laugh my butt off. Look, you're 100% right about this being exactly what you need to validate this stuff. But we're just like, surprised. Maybe we should be, though. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get it. I'm just like, I don't know. I think I'm coming from I've worked in actual labs. You know what I mean? Where people were doing actual scientific work. To see this, I had to say something. That's all. And especially when I know there's a better way, when I've been researching a better way, and this kind of happened to come up around that time. Voya jealousy. No, I don't have anything to be jealous about. Voya has started the discussion about it. He has you talking about it. That's the point, right? And I said that when I started. Before I started, I said, listen, this is what happens in science. Like, I get it. People who aren't in the science world don't know, right? I get it. You guys don't know the severity of what scientists do and how they react to peer review and publishing work. But as soon as you say science, publishing work, standardized, you're going to catch a scientist's ear. And then I'm going to react like a scientist would and say, where is the data? Where is the data? How are you doing this? And then once you show me how you're doing it, now I can critique it. And the critique is, it's flawed. We can do better. Mike, I think you would do multiple runs with color filter for that. Tommy, agree. Want that video? Yeah. Okay, Rod is on a science tier. Be right back. Investing in thermofish. And there's only my point again. It's YouTube, not Science Digest. You're that salmon swimming upstream with a dam right in front of you. No. All right. So this is what's going to happen. Once I start doing measurements with this device, and I can put quantifiable, repeatable results out there, that's going to change how people talk about these things. That's going to change how people talk about them. That's going to change how people refer to these things on YouTube. YouTube, you guys don't think much of YouTube, but YouTube shapes a lot of things. Bam, it does it. I'm swimming upstream. Oh, you've worked in labs too, but if you can get a repeatable, significant result with a wooden ruler, why take the expense of getting a calibrated micrometer? Efficiency. You're always trying to do things better and faster. If I can get more accurate faster, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to get that micrometer. And I'm trying to get a digital one. Screw the analog. All right. So what do we do here? This is what we do. In science, what scientists do is they have something called a peer review, like I've been talking about. And when you get peer review, the community comes together. What should happen in this instance is the community should come together. Now, all I can do is this. I can tell you guys, hey, the hardness is this. The roughness is this. The distance is this. I can get this machine and give us all the numbers. All the right numbers that can then, like I said, be repeated, verified, all that. What I can't do by myself is come up with formulas to say, now that we have quantifiable numbers, how can we put these numbers together into a formula that's going to give us a number that describes these things that we're seeing? Voja talked about contrast and uniformity. With the numbers from this machine, now we can put quantity to uniformity and say, or formula to uniformity and say, okay, uniformity will be collectively. We get the most influential people in the eInk space and say, collectively, what do we think should be or should go into the calculation that formulates uniformity? That's how we do this. We can't do that without numbers, though. We can't do that without quantifiable proof first, because it starts there. Once we have the numbers, then we can figure out how to arrange those numbers that makes everyone happy. Because the formula is not going to be definitive. It's going to be a collect. That's why you need a collection of people. That's why when scientists get together, they have a collection of people that come up with the names of these things. And then they say, okay, we're pushing this name of this new element through. What does everyone think? Does everyone agree with this? Does this make sense? It's not, oh, well, I came up with this element, or maybe I came up with this procedure. I got a number. I'm gonna put my own formula to this thing, not contact the community and say, what makes sense here? Okay, we got brightness. Brightness is, let's put a number to brightness, 30. Okay, that's the background screen brightness. Now let's check the brightness of the actual blacks that are coming off the screen. Maybe that's at a 10. We got 30 and 10 now. What formula can we put together with 30 and 10 to give us a number that we can agree we can assign the value uniformity or contrast to? That's the discussion that needs to be had. The numbers is not a discussion. The numbers are what they are. Once you get a machine that can measure it, they are what they are. Then we start from there. That's how we get above and beyond where we are right now and talking in relative terms. The discussion isn't with the numbers, though. You can't discuss the numbers. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. They are what they are. So there's no discussion to be had about the numbers. The only discussion is, what do we do with those numbers once we have them? That's where we should open up the discussion to me, Voja, Jeff, shit. Now I have to get a strike on my thing. That's a Patreon thing. Now I have to delete. I can't even monetize this video now. My bad. I'm passionate right now. But I was about to say, Brandon, Ed, you know what I mean? All these influential people in the eInk space, we open this discussion up to all of those people and say, hey, we have numbers now. Let's get together and come up with a formula that works for everybody. That's what we got to do. That's where the conversation is had. I don't know who brought that up. I think the Zoni said that. But that's where the conversation is, the Zoni. The conversation is never with the numbers. The numbers are what they are. And for people who are offended by curse words, I'm sorry. I do curse occasionally. I try not to. I got to do a Patreon where I'm just ranting how I want to rant for people who can take it. I'm gonna try to bleep it out. Where did it happen? Actually, let's get a time thing so I can bleep it. It's probably happened at 2:16. Okay. All right. So anyway, so that's the thing. That's what we have to do. That's where we should go with this. That's where we should go with this. So yeah, we all need to talk. I mean, I say we. I mean, I don't mean to put myself in that conversation, but I'm talking about it, so I guess I'm putting myself in the conversation. But we can't have ambiguous numbers. We can have ambiguous formulas if we want, right? If someone says, "Hey, let's take this number and mix it with this number and do that number divided by this, and we'll call that this," that can be ambiguous, but the numbers themselves cannot be. Absolutely. Yeah, this is the NY. Absolutely. I'm going to have quantifiable stuff. Like I want to be quantifiable with things. Like we haven't been able to do that, and I applaud. Like I said before, I applaud. Let's give him the applause one more time for putting it out there, because without that video, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about this. Oh, now I gotta turn Apple. I don't know why Apple thing starts going whenever I don't. It's upsetting. Yeah, let's get the applause going again for Voja, because I really do. I really do appreciate what he did. Someone had to be the first to get the conversation going and rolling. Someone hears it who knows a better way. They bring that better way to the conversation, and it's like, okay, we don't have to do the light box with the camera, and we just have to get the right tool for the job. Once we have the right tool for the job, now we have numbers. Now let's start the conversation about how we come to name and term these things. Like maybe I can put a quantifiable number in formula to inverse ghosting. Different levels of it. That way we can judge it on different devices and say, this has an inverse ghosting value of this. It's been talked about through the community. Everyone agrees that this should be the formula that describes inverse ghosting, and we're going to use that. That's how you do it. All right. Yeah. All right. So anyway, I hope no one took that as hate. I don't hate on Voja. I love Voja's videos. I don't hate on anyone in the eInk space. We're all serving the same interest here. Like to me, there's no competition in the eInk space. Like I don't feel like we're competing against each other to even be hating on one another. Like that's not even how I reach out to everyone and say what I feel about their video, and it's usually all good stuff. Like and this isn't bad. Like I said, once you start talking science, people are going to have an opinion. And if you know anything about me, you know I have opinions, lots of them on a whole bunch of things. So, yeah. Nah, I can't say ish. You can't. I'm trying to run a family-friendly show too. Like that was a huge. I'm just passionate sometimes. That was not intended, and I wasn't even like upset. I was just like, I was about to say Brandon Boswell, and I was like, and Brandon Boswell. But my point is, these are the people who should be in the talks after we get numbers, not before. The numbers aren't debatable. The only talks that should be had is who's got the right instrument for the job. You, good. You get the measurements. Then we can have a talk about what those measurements mean, how we can apply them to the problem we have in the eInk space. So, yeah, that's it. That will be it. Whew, man, that was a lot. I think I'm done. I think I went for a while on this. Like, I don't want this to come off as bad. It's just a discussion that needs to be had. And I say things in a passionate I say things in a passionate way. But I just want you all to know that, none of this upsets me. I may, because of how I talk, it may sound like I'm upset about something, but I'm just passionate about anything I talk about, especially when it comes to science. I have a science background, and it just, I take these things seriously. And if we're going to do it, we need to do it the right way. And the only way to do it is to get industry standard numbers that we can all, there's no need to agree on because it's already been agreed on. And there are tools that are already adhering to these standards that we could be using to get a lot of these measurements that we need to make good decisions, to make good buying decisions. So I can talk crap about something and actually know what the measurements are. It's really in the furtherance of talking more crap reliably. So thanks everyone for joining me. I appreciate everyone for coming to today's live. Yeah, I know I went on, and Voja, if you're watching this, it's all love, bro. No smoke here at all. This is all love. I'm just saying there are tools for this already. We don't need the complexity, but it is what it is. I hope no one took this the wrong way. I hope Voja doesn't take it the wrong way. This is just how scientists do it. You watch a science review video or something like that. Watch Neil deGrasse Tyson's scientific review of I forgot the name of that actor that was like, he had all these scientific discoveries that he wanted Neil deGrasse Tyson to review, and he was like, okay, I'll review it, but I'm going to review it like I would review anybody's work critically. And he ripped it, not because he was trying to rip the guy. He ripped the guy's methodology. Like, it's not personal in this situation. It's never personal. It's just always in the furtherance of getting things right. So, all right. Thank you everyone for joining me. I hope, like I said, I didn't turn anyone off. That wasn't the point. I hope I didn't upset anyone. That wasn't the point. But these things need to be said, and it starts a good conversation. So I hope everyone took it that way. I hope everyone have a good start to their week, even though this wasn't the most positive way to start it. My bad. I'll do better next week. But thank you all for joining me, and I hope you guys have a really great start to your week and have a really good Monday. And until next time, everyone, take care. Oh, the button didn't work. Oh, where's my out?